Oh my, that looks refreshing. Oh, hello. I apologize for my disheveled appearance, but it's so hot in here. Summertime has finally arrived, and I set my thermostat to heat. I even told it that it's 90 degrees in here. Doesn't seem to be fooled. If anything, it's getting hotter. Even my mustache is drooping. I just wish there was some way to cool down without. I hate to do this on camera, but I poured myself a refreshing soda with my new soda siphon, and Excuse me a moment. Oh, that's absolutely disgusting. It's dry and flavorless besides the carbonic acid. It's just water, ice, and carbon dioxide. Oh, it's not refreshing at all. It almost makes me want to go back to my old habit of drinking nothing but flavored syrups. Diabetes be damned. If only there was some way I could combine the two. A little ice, a little syrup, and soda water. Yeah, that's just crazy enough to work. Tonight, we're making flavored syrups.
You'll need sugar. Plain refined cane sugar makes a good syrup and has a neutral flavor, but you can also use other types of sugar, such as turbinado, which has a more robust flavor and a slightly mineral edge. You can also use brown sugar, which tastes like brown sugar. The only other essential ingredient is water. Simple syrup, as it's called, is basically sugar water, and it has a variety of uses. It's also very easy to turn simple syrup into flavored syrup, using ingredients such as vanilla beans. If vanilla beans are hard to come by, or you just want to save yourself some hassle, you can also use flavor extracts. You'll end up with a less nuanced flavor, but sometimes it's worth it. In the case of nut-flavored syrup, such as almond and hazelnut, extracts can be much easier to work with than raw ingredients. Extracts are easy, but my favorite way to make syrups is with herbs straight from the garden. Basil, mint, and rosemary all make excellent syrups on their own or paired with other flavors. As for fruit, berries are good and they're easy to use, but I like my syrups citrusy. Grapefruits, oranges, limes, lemons. You can boost the flavor of this syrup by using not only the zest, but the juice as well. Whatever kind of syrup you're making, you'll need a pan or pot to cook it in, something to stir it with, and something heat-resistant in which to store it. I like glass bottles for ease of pouring, but mason jars are good too. You'll just have to spoon the syrup out instead. If you're using fresh herbs, wash them well and chop them roughly. It doesn't have to be pretty, just make a few pieces out of them. With citrus, what you really want is the zest, which is the colored outermost layer of the rind. That's where the oils and the flavor are. There are special tools for zesting, but you can also accomplish the task with a paring knife or vegetable peeler. Now it's true that you want to leave as much of the pith as possible, that's the white part, and the only flavor it imparts is bitterness, but honestly, in a syrup with all of that sugar and all of that zest and juice, it's not really that noticeable, so even if you end up with a whole bunch of pith, as I'm demonstrating here, on purpose honest, don't sweat it. With vanilla beans, you have a couple different options. Many recipes have you split the bean and scrape out the seeds, which is what you do when you're making ice cream. But when you're making syrup, you're just going to end up with all of these minuscule seeds that are difficult to strain out. You can get just as much vanilla flavor by chopping the bean into a few pieces and steeping it in the syrup. So, first of all, to make simple syrup, all you need to do is combine equal measures of sugar and water and simmer it until it clarifies. That's it. This is 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of water, and we're going to simmer it over medium heat until it turns clear. Well, there's a little bit more to it. You also want to make sure that all of the sugar crystals are dissolved. If you leave sugar crystals in your syrup, it'll tend to crystallize while you store it, and then you just end up with rock candy. Crystals are especially prone to sticking to the spoon. Once everything is nice and dissolved, let it cool for a little while before pouring it into a container. Let it cool even further before placing it in the refrigerator. Because the sugar is already dissolved, simple syrup is excellent for sweetening cold beverages such as iced tea and cocktails. Now let's jazz it up. Rather than simmering them in the syrup, leafy greens such as mint or basil should be steeped like tea. As soon as you remove the syrup from the heat, add the herbs, then steep them for at least 5 minutes. Different herbs require different measures, so try 1/4 of a cup the first time, and then next time adjust the amount up or down for your gustatory pleasure. For the lemon syrup, I'm using the zest of 1 lemon. I'm still using a cup of sugar, but I'm also using the juice of that lemon plus enough water to make a cup of liquid. Same ratio, just part juice, part water. If you want to make it even stronger, use more lemons. You can use 100% lemon juice instead of water if you like. Now, the only real problem with using lemon juice instead of water is that it tends to be cloudy, and it tends to remain cloudy. This can make it difficult to tell just by looking when the syrup is ready. This is where a candy thermometer can be useful. Now, according to the chart that came with my candy thermometer, you want your syrup to reach a temperature of 110 degrees Celsius or 230 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll still want to stir the syrup occasionally, but be very careful with the candy thermometer in there as they tend to be made of glass. If you don't have a candy thermometer, don't worry about it. Just simmer it over medium to medium-low heat for 2 or 3 minutes until you're pretty sure all the sugar has been dissolved. Then add the lemon zest. Now, instead of removing this from the heat and steeping it like we did with the herbs, we're going to leave it on medium to medium-low heat and simmer those peels right in there. I stress the word simmer. You don't want to boil this. We don't want it to reduce or thicken. We just want to simmer those peels until they're slightly translucent, about 5 minutes or so. Once the peels are a little bit soft and slightly translucent, we can remove the syrup from the heat and strain it. Let's go ahead and make one more kind of syrup tonight. Now this time, instead of using 1 cup of white sugar, I'm using 3/4 of a cup of white sugar and 1/4 of a cup of brown sugar, because this is vanilla syrup. I'm still using 1 cup of water to 1 total cup of sugar, still using medium heat, making sure all of the sugar is dissolved, but this time I'm putting the vanilla beans in at the very beginning. In this case, I want to maximize the amount of time the flavoring agent is in there. As long as I follow the regular procedures for making syrup, keep it over medium heat, don't keep it on the heat for too long, there's not really a chance that any undesirable flavors will be leached out of the vanilla beans. Other than that, this is pretty much the same as making the lemon syrup. Once you've made your syrup, you'll want to strain it before storing it. It can be difficult to strain it directly into a jar or bottle, even with a nice funnel, so here's what I do. I place a wire mesh strainer into a bowl, and then pour the syrup through that. Then I can easily lift the strainer out, leaving the syrup. I let the syrup cool a little bit before pouring it into the jar or bottle. A batter bowl is an even better choice because it has a spout. Remember to be careful with the syrup during every step of this process, as it is not only very hot, it is quite sticky. Syrups stored at room temperature will be less likely to crystallize, but they will also be much more prone to spoilage. I recommend keeping your syrups in the refrigerator. They should keep for at least 2 weeks, up to a month or more in the refrigerator. If your syrups do crystallize, you can easily reheat them and dissolve the crystals. Watch for signs of spoilage even in the refrigerator. These may include unusual cloudy formations, bubbles, strange odors or flavors. When in doubt, err on the side of caution and throw it out. Disclaimers aside, making flavored syrups is fun and easy, and they have a variety of uses. You can pour them over ice cream, they can add flavor and character to your cocktails, or you can use a soda siphon or store-bought club soda to make delicious homemade flavored sodas. I use 2 to 3 tablespoons per glass of soda, but you may use more or less as you desire. Try adding them to your baked goods. Mix them with cake frosting or whipped cream. And experiment. Try different spices such as cinnamon, cardamom, black pepper, chili pepper. The possibilities are practically endless.
A little flavored syrup in there makes all the difference. Peppermint is particularly refreshing on a hot summer day. I'll never drink plain water again, except for sometimes and probably every day, because you can't just drink sugar. That would be ridiculous and terrible for you. Tune in next time for information on something else.